Hey, if you want to know how to build a business that attracts money, you stay tuned to this podcast right here. Okay? All right. So I have got my really just amazing friend, Jamie Bryant, Dr. Jamie Bryant. So I knew her before she was a doctor. So that's the reason why I called her. But we got to put some respect on the name, respect on the name. And so Jamie, tell the people who you are in your own words, and then I'll do the same.
Right. So, like Dr. V said, my name is Dr. Jamie Bryant. I am a serial entrepreneur and I've built multiple businesses to multi-million-dollar status. And now I help people build legacy through business and real estate investment.
I love it. I love it. So my name is Dr. V. I teach nurses how to work from anywhere around the world, making money, owning their own time, building profitable nurse coaching, consulting, and service-based businesses. And so I want you to like, share, comment on this podcast. But we're going to talk about how to build a business that attracts money. So, Jamie, I'm gonna let you take it off.
Okay. So let me try to see where we should start here. So building a business that attracts money. We all know it takes money to make money, right? And so what type of money are you putting into your business? Is it coming from your pocket? Is it coming from do you have some investments? Do you got loans? How are you taking money that you have wherever you got it from and using it to attract money? So we'll talk a little bit about marketing, right, V?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk a little bit about how you can acquire extra money to use that money to get more money. So we're going to talk about a lot of things today. So like Dr. V said, make sure you like, comment, and share. Make sure you let your friends know. If you know somebody who's a nurse entrepreneur who possibly will have questions on how they can get more money to make more money, then you're going to want them to come and join in on this live.
I love it. One of the things that, as it relates to marketing, I think that, people, and I don't know what it is. I think sometimes as it relates to nurses, sometimes we feel like we have to be the invisible brand, like it's okay to be invisible. And the reality is that, your brand, and whether it's a faceless brand or it's a brand with a face, it needs to be visible, right? In order for you to attract your ideal client. And this one guy, he was so funny. He was like, this venture capitalist gave this guy some money, right? He gave him some money for, for his burger joint, right? And so that he was like, we're doing great, we're operationally they were doing great, right? But then the guy, he was like, something's not right because they weren't making any money. And he was like, something's not right. So let me go over here and let me see the reason why they aren't making any money. So he gets there and there's this white building. There's nothing on the building. And he's like, so how do people know that you're here?
Right.
And he said, well, we got the best burgers, but you're the best kept secret.
Right.
And so when you look at, online marketing these days, that's what, if you don't have a brand online, then that online marketing does not come through. That's just like that white building and them best burgers. Like you got the best thing cut hot and running, right? But you don't have anything that's visible, right?
Yep.
And it's a whole lot of, I think one of the things that is very intentional, I think one of the things that we have to understand, I grew up, don't tell nobody, okay? This between us, all right? So I grew up, okay, when there was Encyclopedia Britannica, right? So, by the time the doggone book got to us, okay, the information was old and ain't nobody. So for us to get current information in real time, it causes a lot of distractions, right? But that's the beauty. It's like the double in it and the beauty of it as well, right? Because it's a struggle to keep that attention, and you want to make sure that you are keeping the attention on you so that they can buy from you. And I tell people this all the time. I said, just think about this for a moment. You are the one who has integrity. There are going to be some people out here that just don't have integrity. And when they don't have integrity, you know what they're going to do? They're going to market better than you are. They're going to do better than you are, and they're going to steal them people's money. And then you over here have integrity, but you just kind of chilling in the background.
Right. Exactly. That brand visibility makes a difference, not just whenever it comes to how much money your business is making, but how much money your business is worth. So when you talk about the
Mhm.
value of your business, right? Because at some point you may potentially want to sell or you may want to scale into franchise options, right? And so the value of your business is strategically tied to not only all of your branding, but all of the marketing out there that is easily accessible. So for me, like I'm a private investor, I'm not going to invest in a business that I have to go now and turn around and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get the name out there. I may
Mhm.
as well start my own business from scratch, right? That's just common sense, right? We're just talking
Right.
common sense now, but um, from the perspective of business value, your branding and your footprint, your digital footprint, not just a digital footprint, because wherever it is that you are, if you have a local business, your branding with the community needs to sometimes be a little bit more than even your online digital footprint, right? That
Fact.
boots on the ground. So it really depends on what type of business you have, but either way you have to have some type of brand. It has to be known in
Mhm.
some form or fashion. And online, even if you have a brick and mortar, whether you have a virtual business, whatever, online is going to be one of the top ways to have visibility. And I'm not necessarily just talking about social media. I'm just talking about the basic Google. you know,
Mhm.
what do
Mhm.
you do when you're looking for something, right? If you go to a new place and you want to find out what the best Mexican restaurant is, what's the first thing you do? You go on Google,
Mhm.
best Mexican restaurants near
Fact.
me, wherever your
Mhm.
location is, right? Sometimes you go on TikTok. What restaurants are people talking about? YouTube, whatever the case may be, that's where people go. Or they may have seen a sign, a billboard, whatever. But your branding, your what you're putting out there to the world is going to directly affect how much money you make and how much your business ends up being worth in the
That's
end.
I love that. And and I just want to tell y'all that Jamie is a business broker, okay? And you know there was such a thing, okay? But she's the person that she's the person that helps sell your business, okay? So if you want to sell your business, and you got good business because Jamie ain't got time for no shenanigans. So I need for you to go over there and talk to Jamie. But one of the things that's really, really good too, as it relates to that, because one of the things that I know is that I don't, I know that like I will walk in places and people will be like, "Hey, Dr. V."
Mhm.
Hey. I have no idea who that. Now I want y'all to drop brand in the comments, okay? If you know branding is important because when you look at certain brands, like you have that trust within that brand, right? So drop brand in the comments so that we know y'all vibing with us, okay?
Yeah.
So and that's huge, but not just because I think people sometimes think that branding is just logos and your
Mm,
font and your colors and things of that nature. But really it's the reputation of your company, how you conduct your company. Some people out there they're just messy,
yeah.
right? And then they wonder why they attract messy customers, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
just like
I was just going to touch on that too, because the way that you put yourself out there is going to attract those type of customers. But yeah, it's a hot mess sometimes.
it
We
is, it
don't
is.
want that to be you though. We don't want that to be you for you though.
No, 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 because people will come up and this is the reality. And some people are just super, super funny, but then some people are just mean, like they're mean spirited. I'm like, oh Lord, why is it? So you have to be very, very careful about that. And then, of course, in this hot political arena, you have to
Mhm.
be very careful about just kind of how you put yourself out there as it relates to that as well. I try to limit myself. Sometimes I can't help myself. Pray for me. But I try to limit, what I say and what I do as it relates to it because it does at the end of the day, you know, you need to make money. All right. You need to make money, you need to make impact. And a lot of people they get tore out of their frame about making money.
Mhm.
It's funny to me. I don't understand it. Like, I don't want to be rich. People like, I don't want to be rich. How many of y'all have ever said, I don't want to be rich? I have said it before. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't know why I said it. Stupid. All right. Anyway, the deal is that you really, really
But
like
you
at the
don't
end of
want to be rich, friend. You want to be wealthy because there's a
wealthy.
big difference between being rich and being wealthy.
Well, I mean, still rich will get you some freedom. Okay. Even if it's just rich, it'll get you
True,
some
true.
freedom.
If you
So
know how to keep those riches, that's the key. So it's all about the money mindset.
right, right, right. And I don't care if you have $2 or if you have $10 million. Your money mindset has to be a certain way. And if you don't, because that $2 can easily turn into 10 million. But if your
Amen.
money mindset is not there, tell me something. I want to ask you this. So, like, what are some key aspects of having a great money mindset?
I'm glad you asked me that question because I just thought of something. And it's really, I'll give an example of what I'm about to talk about, right? Having good money mindset. So last year during Coachella, right? For those who don't know, Coachella is that big music festival that happens in California every year. Last year during Coachella, I was seeing a lot of people complaining because there were individuals who were paying. There was like a tent or whatever on a lawn. It's a music festival, and this tent on the lawn had access to the restrooms, showers, whatever the case may be. People were paying $10,000 for that. And I was seeing a lot of negative feedback from people saying things like, well, why would I pay $10,000 for that? I would rather go to Jamaica and all inclusive, or I would rather go on a cruise and all, blah, 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 whatever they were saying. And instantly that let me know that their mindset about money is not right, because they're thinking about the fact that they only would have an opportunity to spend $10,000 at one time in their life, right? And when you're thinking about money like that, then your actions are going to reflect. Now, for me, when I saw people spending $10,000 on these tents, it didn't phase me, because
Hmm.
I know that if I want to spend $10,000 and go sleep in a tent, but at least I have restrooms, that's not going to stop me from going to Jamaica or going on a cruise or going to wherever else it is that people want to go. But when you're thinking about money and your mind is, I'll only have large sums of money at one time, so I need to make the most of it. Your mindset is telling you that you're not going to be able to achieve that amount of money on a regular basis. Understanding that you can have a large sum of money and spend it on fun. Those people
Hmm.
went to Coachella and they had fun. They're doing what they want to do with their money, but they have the money to spend. Not everybody is broke. And having that thought process that everybody is broke, maybe because where you are right now, you can't spend that type of money. Having that frame of mind is going to keep you where you are. You have to broaden your horizons and start looking at how the wealthy are spending their money. And you have to start thinking like, when I have this money, I want this. These are the things that I want to do, not as a barrier, not as it's only going to happen one time, but regularly. I buy things. I spend a large amount of money on fun things all the time.
Hmm.
It's because I want to. You know what I mean? If I want to buy a new RV, I'm getting ready to go to the RV show. Just bought one a couple years ago, about to buy a new one. If I want to buy a boat, I'm going to buy a boat. It is
Hmm.
what it is. Is it going to help me in my business? I'm going to figure out a way for it to, because I like for things to make me money. But it's fun. If I want to get in the car and drive across the country, me and my dog's going to go, because I travel with my animals.
So
So
let
you
me ask you this though. In that same spirit, so there, and Myron Goldis talks about this all the time. The reason why people get upset about spending money sometimes is because they're paying with their life. They're trading time for dollars, right? And
definitely
so, in that same spirit, like, mitigate the person who does not have millions of dollars, right? And they don't have, now I listen, if you ain't got it, you ain't got it, right?
right, right.
But mitigate that person who is like up and coming, and they don't want to spend that because they think that that is frivolous, as opposed to Does that make sense?
But
And
that's the problem. You can't think of it as being frivolous. Like, even if
okay.
you don't have it right now, you're putting into fruition that you eventually will be able to spend this type of money on whatever it is that interests you. Now, I use the
Mm,
Coachella thing as an example just because, a lot of people go,
mhm.
but there are a certain demographic that don't necessarily frequent that event. And so, even if you can't spend the money right now, you have to foreshadow that at some point in your life you will be able to. And you will be able to more than once, is the key point of what I'm trying to say. You have to start understanding and thinking that at some point, here you are on a journey, right? You're on your way to multi-million dollar status. You're not there yet, but you're on your way there. And so you've got to start thinking about money in a way that you already have it, but not actually spending it, right? Like, you can't afford to spend $10,000 to go to Jamaica right now. I'm not saying go do it. What I'm saying is start thinking about the money as if you're already making the type of money that allows you to do such things
I'm glad
regularly.
I'm glad you said that. And one of the things that, like, this is one thing that right now we know is that you can make a product
Mhm,
today and sell that
mhm.
product, and then you won't have a ceiling to how much money that you can make based off of the
Oh,
product
yeah,
that you make all day
absolutely,
long.
absolutely,
Like, you can
absolutely.
continuously sell that product. And one thing that I know about nurses, and let me tell you something, because nurses, if there's any nurses in the comments, if there's anybody here that's not a nurse, you can stay here because it's a good conversation whether you're a nurse or you're not.
Mhm,
Business is business. Marketing, sales, and operations is business at the end of the day. Now, I want to explain to the people, okay? If you
mhm.
got a child, you are a seller, okay? If you've been in nursing, you sell all day
Right.
long.
Yeah,
Be very clear. And
yeah.
I think about the story of the kid that came in. So there was a kid that came in when I first became a nurse. Kid came in, kid was blind, the kid was diabetic, the kid was brittly diabetic. The kid was getting ready to have his leg amputated. I don't know if I've ever told you this story before. If I have, stop me. However, I don't know. Maybe the people hadn't heard it. Okay. So so he came in, he was brittly diabetic. Now, I was young at the time, very, very young, but he
Mhm,
was younger than I was. And I remember thinking, diabetes is such a horrible disease, right?
mhm,
And I remember, like, as I grew in nursing, and I remember getting into the emergency department that I went to, and there was a patient that came in, and she was diabetic, and I knew she was going to die if she didn't take her medications, and
mhm.
she did not want to take her medication. And I remember spending an entire hour in this lady's room. And the reason why I spent an entire hour in this lady's room, there's one reason and one reason only. And this is the way that you can sell, is that you have to believe in your product. Oprah says you don't get what you want, you get what you believe. And
Yep.
so I you have to believe in your product. And so sure enough, I believed in the product,
Mhm.
right? And because I believed in the product, I spent an hour trying to convince her. But then somebody else say no to you, and then you'll shut your business down. Like, what we doing?
Right, right.
What we doing?
But even what you just said, going back to the mindset of having enough money to spend regularly, you don't go for what you want, you go for what you believe. So you have to make yourself believe, right?
Right,
So that's
right.
exactly what we're trying to say. And also going back to brand loyalty, when we talked about branding, there are some brands out there who are that their product is not that great. Their product's not that great, but they make a lot of money because they have brand loyalty. I could think of at least three right off the top of my head. And y'all gonna kill me in the comment section if you want to, but Apple is one of them. Their product is not the best. It's not the best phone. It's not the best this. It's not the
Lord
best that.
Jesus, here we go. Here we
But,
go. Jamie,
but,
listen, listen, listen. I've got
but
brand loyalty. All of my products are Apple. Okay,
listen,
all right.
it's I
We
have
friends. We still friends though.
I
Okay.
got brand loyalty too. I'm not saying, look, just so y'all don't eat me up too much. You see right here, right? Look, I'm not being sponsored by them. So let me take that out. I'm just saying, the truth of the matter is you have people who will go and buy their phones or their laptops or computers just because of who they are.
Right.
Nike, I don't know. I don't wear Nikes, but Nike shoes. You have people who, since the early 90s, they've been their customer. So it almost doesn't matter what type of shoe they put out, because I've seen some ugly looking shoes or whatever, but people wearing them, that's that brand loyalty. So sometimes, I guess what I'm trying to say is, you don't have to focus so much on your product itself being the best, because if you build a brand that connects with your customer,
Hmm.
right? And I'm talking about the brand. I'm not talking about you as a person. I'm talking about your brand. If it connects with your customer the way that it's supposed to, you've got the right avatar and you've done the right thing, then they will buy from you.
And I think
They will
one of the things that
buy.
people really don't understand and they really have not grappled with is their avatar. Like, they're trying to sell to everybody. And the
Yeah,
reality is that if you're selling to everybody, you're selling to nobody, right?
nobody.
Be very,
Uh-huh.
very clear about that. Now, of
Mhm.
course, Apple and Samsung and things of that nature, as they have grown, but I'm sure they didn't start that way. They started with a niche audience. And I tell
Right.
people all the time, whenever you're thinking about how, like, for example, let's think about specialists, right?
Mm.
Specialists, the cardiologist or the primary medical doctor, who makes more money? The cardiologist, right?
Right.
Because they're niching down. So you
Right.
niche down and then you broaden your audience, right?
Right.
So, and to make sure that you are serving, you are speaking to that person that you need to speak to, because a 20-year-old is not going to have the same needs, wants, desires as a 60-year-old. And
Amen.
so you have to be very, very clear about who you are speaking to.
And you have to feel comfortable that the person that you're not speaking to, like, if they want your product, they'll get your product. But if they don't, you have to be okay with them not buying. Like
Mhm.
the cardiologist, your example of the cardiologist versus the primary care, the cardiologist isn't even going to look at your chart if you don't have a cardiology problem, right? And they're charging, cardiologists charge here, primary care charges here. That's just the reality. I'm not trying to be, whatever about it. So they're charging more. They understand that not everybody's going to come to them, but the person who comes to them are going to be the people who need their particular specialty. And you as a business owner have to have that same mentality, right? So if somebody comes to you, if you have this specialty and somebody comes looking for primary care, you have to either, number one, feel comfortable referring out, or number two, just feel comfortable saying, well, that's not my person, and move on.
And that's okay. That's
It's
where the problem that's where the problem comes at. Everybody is like, "Well, I didn't catch that person." If you knew what your numbers are, it's
mm,
okay. You're
it's not
not
gonna,
going to attract everybody. You don't
nope,
even want to attract
you don't
everybody.
want to. Exactly. I was telling you my next, you do not want everybody, trust me.
No, you don't. Facts,
Yeah.
facts. And I'm gonna back up Apple. I'm sorry about Jamie saying that, but I think Apple's the best product. I don't know what she's talking about, but anyway, you go ahead. You go ahead. Okay, we go let you, because I'm
Cold
bringing loyalty
falling.
now.
No, just kidding. Not cold falling, but loyalty. There you go. There it is right there. They don't even see that it's not the best.
I love it. So if you like Apple or Samsung, drop it or Android, drop it in the chat. We want to know which phone is gonna win the prize. Okay, drop it in the chat because we want to see. All right.
What's the prize, V?
I don't know what prize is. Okay.
Okay.
She said, "What's the prize?" Jamie's like, "Well, are we giving prizes away? Like, what's going on?"
Listen, if we're gonna give a prize away, let's give a prize. But what is it though?
Yeah, we ain't
It
giving y'all
ain't an
no
Apple
prizes.
phone. I know that much.
The what now?
I said it ain't an Apple phone. I know that much.
Facts, facts. We ain't for sure, for sure. This computer, as a matter of fact, my CPA just sent me this little thing, and she was like, "What is this for?" I said, "For my computer." That is so good, so good. So now, let's transition into talking about because I know that you know a little bit about grants and things of that nature, and I do have to say, okay, and I'm a fan of it if I can get it, okay, but I do am a fan of. Jocelyn said Apple. That's right, Jocelyn. That's right. That's right. Okay. Um it's the best, ain't it? Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Jocelyn,
There
my
you
friend.
go. For
All right.
everybody listening, I just want you all to know they are proving my point.
All right, so I'm a little bit of a fan of obviously getting extra money in order to build your brand, but I think sometimes whenever you get money at the beginning, it's can sometimes cripple you, right? And one of the things that when I think about this one lady, she went on Shark Tank, right? And she had gotten, I want to say $200,000 as seed fund, right? And she had trademarked her brand.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't made no money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what are we doing? And even the sharks were like, this is crazy, right? So I think that sometimes it can cripple you, but just speak to that for a moment.
It can cripple you if you don't know what you're doing.
Mm,
And that goes with anything, whether you're running a business or even in your personal life. You see lottery winners end up broke in 5 or 10 years all the time. The point isn't whether you got the money or you don't got the money. It's that you don't know what you're doing. And that's why you have people like, Viola, other people out there who do coaching, who you can reach out to and who can help you so that you can get started the right way. Because you can get started with the basic things the right way, and then something can happen and you can end up losing all of your money, right? But being well established and understanding that you need to do things the right way the first time is going to be number one. That's a mindset thing, right? I need help. The second thing is, do I have the money? Where am I going to come up with the money, right? A lot of people think it's safer to start small. The unfortunate thing about starting small is when you build your audience, your avatar with that starting small mentality, as you start to grow, the ones you started with are going to usually start to feel some type of way because you've gotten too big for your britches, right? They
mm,
remember you were here. And so again, it's all about who you're targeting. And when you're starting small, like me, I'm going for the gusto. I'm going for the avatar that has the money to spend, and I'm charging high dollar. That's it. Okay. I'm not going to let me just start over here and start to, dial my worth back because I'm new. No thanks.
mm-mm, mm-mm. And
It's so
I'm glad
simple.
you said that, because one of the things that you have to know is that just because you're new in business, this is the one thing that I want nurses to understand. Just because you're new in business, you're not new to what your knowledge level is. You are
Right.
very clear on what your knowledge level is. So stop thinking that just because you're new in business, you have to start small. Dr. Benjamin Hardy has a book called My Future Self Now. And many times what we do is he talked about that we have all these requirements. Like we think we got to get every degree in the world. And I'm the poster child for it. You are
Me
too.
too.
And
Listen,
we talk about this all the time, right?
we talk about this all
Thinking
the
that
time.
you got to get all these degrees, and we don't have to. Like, we just,
No, you really don't. And really, the truth of the matter is, I use this example all the time, probably at least once a week, but there's a gentleman on TikTok that sells cutting boards for $1,200. We have nurses who have varying levels of degrees and certifications, and they don't want to charge for their knowledge. And I'm not saying it so that we can compare. I'm saying it again because we're talking mindset. We're talking about money mindset. You have to open up your mind and know that there are people out there who are willing to pay whatever it is that you're going to charge, right? So if you
mhm.
charge $90 for an hour of your time, or whatever it is that you're going to be doing, or if you charge $1,000 for an hour of your time, there is somebody out there who's willing to pay. And like I said, this guy's making freaking cutting boards. They're beautiful. I mean, they're nice looking, they're good quality, but $1,200. And us as skilled, professional, degree, credentialed individuals don't want to charge our worth.
Right,
I,
right. And you're
I don't like that.
saving lives, saving
Yes.
lives.
Yeah.
Like what your processes and the things that you're doing is saving lives at the end of the day, right? The end goal is that you're saving lives. And for the life of me, struggle with that particular part. But I think that it is part, misalignment, right? And I was thinking about this story, because when I was younger, so my parents they got married and they had 6 stair steps, right? back to back to back to back. And then my mother had four miscarriages and she had one stillborn. And then after the stillborn, she had me. And when she had me, she called me her miracle baby. But she was 42 when she had me. And when
Mm,
she had me, I don't know, my mama just, she knew everybody in the community. So she went out to all these funerals, right? And every time she would go to these funerals, in my little bitty mind, right, as a small girl, what I used to think was, the big funeral car. I
mm,
thought that is such a beautiful car. And
mm,
all eyes were on the car. And the
mhm,
people who got out of the car, they were very nicely dressed. But
mhm,
what I didn't realize in my small mind at that time was that those people that were in that car, they had a whole lot of hurt and pain because they had just lost someone, right?
mm,
And very much that is the way that it is whenever you grow your businesses and you're misaligned, right? Is that internally you don't have the alignment that you need. And so there's a bunch of broken pieces. And then it shows up eventually externally, once they get out of the car and they're crying all out the frame because they done lost a loved one, it shows up externally. You know what I'm saying? And so
yeah,
that misalignment is there, and you have to be intentional about your alignment and understanding that you're valuable more than you can ever understand. Michelle Carter said, two powerful women. Thank you, Michelle. Thank
thank
you.
and that's, it's interesting that you say that too, because alignment, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right?
Nope.
Like Dr. V said, you sell every day at the bedside or at the hospital or whatever the case may be, because you're selling your patients on whatever it is that they may possibly need. But you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to come up with something new in order to start a business. And so just understanding that and not waiting, because that's the thing that people do. They wait. Well, I haven't thought of what it is that I can do. Well, I just met you and I could probably think of 50 things that you can do. You know what I mean? So you better, but the truth of the matter is, don't wait, just get started. And I tell people this all the time, and people disagree with me, and I don't really care. But the truth of the matter is, you could just get started doing something. At least you're going to learn along the way. And at least along the way, you're going to start to develop more confidence, and you'll start to feel more comfortable with what it means to be an entrepreneur, a business owner, than being an employee. So just start somewhere and just start doing something that you have within your skill set, and learn along the way.
Yeah, and that's the key. I remember when I first started, and of course, I believe in the one thing. But when I first started, I was doing all kinds of things. I was doing relationship coaching because I had a husband who was crazy, and then he ain't crazy. My children might be up here at some point in time. So he's the husband.
Say that in
Okay,
a long time. Oh, you and your husband. I haven't heard you say that since the clubhouse days.
so it was my husband, and now I have an amazing husband. So I was a relationship coach at that time. I went from bankruptcy to a credit score of over 800. So I was a financial coach, I was a life coach, because life had hit me and I was able to get out of it. And of course, it's whatever your former self has done, right? That's the best thing, especially if you're in coaching and consulting. Whatever who you were as a former person, that's who you want to coach on. And I tell people all the time, the little man that sell out and I think we talked about it, the little russet potatoes, right? I'm never gonna ever stop talking about that man.
Oh,
He
yeah.
sell the little russet potatoes and he put a little note on the russet potatoes
Yep.
and send it out to people.
Yeah.
And you been a whole nurse,
Right.
like nursing school is hard.
Right. Oh my
It
God.
is hard. It
Mm.
is one of the hardest schools to go to. You've been through nursing school. People are like, well, I don't think that I can do that. Lady, you've been through nursing school, your whole RN. I remember going to try to pass. Now, I don't know if anybody passed their NCLEX on the first time, drop first. If you second time, drop second. Listen, I dropped
Didn't.
mine. You didn't.
No.
That is hilarious. You didn't pass it on the first time, and you smart. Listen, Jamie's smart as whip. So y'all ain't got no reason. Y'all ain't got no reason. Listen, and I barely skipped it. I know I barely made that by the skin of my teeth. You hear me?
Yeah. Now there's a reason I didn't pass, and I know the reason, but the fact is I didn't first time.
Smart as a whip. Listen. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? Because the NCLEX was hard, nursing school was hard. You got past all of that. You are, Michelle said, by the grace of the Lord. Listen, yes, Michelle, yes.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, it's really something that at the end of the day, you've done all that, you've accomplished all that. This marketing and things, building a business, it's
Mhm.
really consistency. And I
Yeah.
think that the problem is that it gets boring because
Mhm.
you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over. And the more consistent you are, the better you get at the consistent thing. The
Right.
problem is that half the people won't even step across the first line. Like, come
Right.
on. Like, come
I want to
on.
talk about the boring part though, real quick, V, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
because to me, whenever it starts to get boring because it's mundane, right? That's when it's time to scale.
Well, this is what I mean when I say boring. Looking at your numbers is boring to me. you know, like it's not the
It's
the
exciting for me. I mean, I'm a math nerd, so everything is numbers to me. I would rather look at and crunch numbers than post on social media any time of the day, every day, all
right.
day. That's just
You're a math nerd.
as
I love
evident
it.
by the fact that I don't post on social media, but I process loans, I do investment. I mean, I do, I'm speaking to the truth of who I am at the core. But anyway, go ahead. I interrupted you.
But I think that that's core of who you are, right? I think that we
Yeah,
both have a certain, like, if we would, I know that if we took the disc exam, that we would be assessment, we would both be high D's and high
ID. Yeah,
I's. Mhm. Like, we're gonna get it done, all right? And we think that our way is the right way. And I think
mhm,
one of the things that is very good about us, and it relates to, and this is it very important whenever it comes to having anybody in business. One of the things that you have to understand is that you have to have just respectability in business. This is
mhm.
where there is a struggle, right? Because people don't like it killed, when you're judgmental of other things, then you can't put yourself out there because you're judgmental of what somebody else did. You're like, look at them. Fancy pants 797 behind the keyboard, and then you're upset because of what they done said. Like Jamie said, I don't care about what they say.
No. And
And
you have
having
to
it
have thick skin. You have to have, especially in business, because when you're putting yourself out there, like we talked about that brand notoriety, we talked about being everywhere, online, offline, you have to have enough thick skin not to react emotionally every time somebody says something that you don't like. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, there's hundreds of millions of people in the world. Everybody's not going to like what you say and do, and that's okay. And you have to be okay with that.
And I think one of the things too is that you have to know who you are internally. You have to
Mhm.
know, and that goes back to that alignment. If you know
Yeah,
who you are, then them coming on, every now and then, if I have time, I don't have time now, but it used to be when I had time, I might, troll them and say
right.
some stuff. But now I just delete and block, right? Get them out of the way. Because this one guy, he was like, "Don't you tell the patients that you're a doctor." Boy, bye. I am not even in the hospital. I want you
Right.
to
You
be
don't even work as a clinician at all anywhere.
exactly. Like, get go somewhere now, sir.
Wow.
Sir.
Wow.
So I took his comment and I posted it and I said, "So I don't work in the hospital, sir, but
Right.
I have a whole nurse that built this brand right here, okay? Because she's one of my clients." But I did all that, but now I just don't have time. I just delete and block because it just doesn't make sense. You can't rise to their applause or die to their criticism. You just can't.
Yeah. And why waste the time? Because guess what? That person will probably never be a customer of yours.
Right, right.
So
Exactly,
why
exactly.
waste the time or energy on somebody who's just trying to get a rise out of you? Like that's their whole intent behind the comment.
Just to get a rise out of you. That's exactly right. But this is the thing too, I think, is that we have to understand is that when you don't like rich people, because people say, "Well, I don't like rich people." If you don't like rich people,
I'll
you
never be
can't never
one.
become rich.
It goes back to what I was talking about in the beginning. I hate to see that online. Oh, what do they say? Oh, I don't trust somebody who's worth X number of millions of dollars. It's like, oh, you're just counting yourself out. You'll never be that person then.
Right, right.
Be a thousandaire. Continue to be a thousand. I'm gonna be over here.
And they're like, well, just give your money to other people. But this is the thing, is that you get to decide what you do, right? At the end of
Mm.
the day. And that's what I tell people all the
And how do you
time.
know they don't?
Huh? Do what now?
Not you specifically, but the person making that comment. Like, how do you know that they don't?
Exactly. 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 You
That's
want
so
to be
crazy whenever people are like, you should be using your money to do X, Y, and Z. You don't know what somebody else is doing in the privacy of their own home.
right.
People who make a lot of money, I guarantee you with 1000%, I feel confident about what I'm about to say. People who make an absorbent amount of money give back in some way.
For
Now, I'm
tax
not
reasons, no, if not other than tax reasons.
Thank you. I was just about to say, I'm not saying, it's 100% out of the kindness of their heart, but they look for the fourth quarter of every year, because fourth quarter used to be the busiest for me. What do I need to do? How do I move? Where do I move? Okay, they're looking for what they can do with their money. So
Right.
it's not for us to judge whether that's right or wrong.
Mhm.
They did what they did to make their money. They made the choices that they made to make their money. It's not for us to judge. The fact is they do it, whether
You
it's
know,
United Way or whether it's something local, whatever the case may be. Anyway.
one of my potential clients, she touched on this fact. She was scared to make the money because of the fact that she thought that someone might come and ask her, like her relatives would come and ask her for the money. I said, well, tell
Mm,
them no.
right,
Okay.
right.
I
Well,
said,
they say no is a full
people don't come
sentence.
exactly. I said, people don't come to me and ask me for money. I have a relative that came to me and asked me for $25. This was years ago. He asked me for $25. And I gave him that $25 because I didn't listen, I'm gonna give you enough money. This is the rule of thumb when it comes to loaning money. Okay. Y'all listen to me. If you listening to me, say listen. Okay. Just drop it in the chat. All right. Now he gave me only certain people we can see. If you opt in, we can see your chat. We can see your message. All right. So I ain't ignoring you, I promise. So he came to me, he asked me for $25. This is the rule of thumb. It has to be enough, so little money that you how's she gonna be calling me in the middle of the podcast? We're gonna pray
That
about her.
I
Um,
don't care if you don't pay me back.
right, that I don't care if you pay me back. And
Yeah,
our relationship will still stay together. Okay.
yeah.
That's
Hmm.
the number one rule. The second rule is, and I tell people all the time, you gonna pay me back on time? I'm gonna teach you to fish. If you I always do that. And if you don't do either one of them, don't ask me for no more money.
Yeah.
Don't ask me for no more. I mean, at the end of the day, and then he came back years later and he asked me for $100. I said, bro, you ain't pay me back for that $25. He was like, I thought you gave it to me. No, you are grown. Okay. I ain't giving no grown person. Okay. None of my money. All right. Let's be clear. All right. The only people that and every now and then, you break down with the children, but I mean,
I
our
was about to
birthday.
say, if you didn't come from me, then you ain't one of them. And that's a stretch because they gonna earn you keep too.
That's right. That's right. That's right. For
In some
sure.
form or fashion.
That's right. That's right. I love that. I love that. I love that. And your parents, of course. You get your daddy. You gonna give them a little bit. You gonna break them off a little bit every now and then. But yeah, it's for sure, and it makes a difference. But one of the things too that you have to make sure of is, and when it comes to your children, this guy was diabolical, and I love it. And there was this show. It's a show by Tyler Perry, and if you know the show, then drop it in the chat. Anyway, everybody is like, as a whole family, they're all really really mean. It's like got a strip club, and then it's got a but the family is incredibly rich, okay? And the girl If y'all know who this show, drop it in the chat. The girl, one of the girls, she ended up that was a stripper. She ended up marrying the father, okay, which is one of the matriarchs of the family. But the grandfather put in the will, how crazy is this? That if they kill if anybody killed anybody, then they were out the will.
Mm.
Anyway, and as you watch the show, you realize the reason why he put it in the will, okay?
Because
But
that's
this
like
other
my
guy, but this other guy that I was watching on YouTube, he put it in his will for his children that if they didn't if they ever were ever to get married, that their spouse would had to sign a prenup. And
hmm
if their spouse didn't sign the prenup, then they were taken out of the will. And
mm
what happened was in that it took the onus off of the person to get the prenup signed.
mm.
I was
That makes
like,
sense.
I was
That's
like, that's
smart.
smart.
This
That's smart.
that is smart.
One of my friends said that they had a reading of the will for their family, and one of the son-in-laws, like they were like, he gets nothing, zero, zilch, nothing. Right, specifically in the will, it said that, right, or in the trust, it said that, or
Mhm.
the reading of the will, whatever. But the deal is that you want to ensure that your children are set up for success and really helping them to
Absolutely.
understand that. And I really,
Absolutely.
really like how you like. What are some of the things that you teach your son as it relates to like how to build business, what because he's a real estate agent now, right? Isn't he?
Yes, he's a
Mhm.
realtor. He actually he's just pivoted a little bit to focus on new construction homes.
Mhm.
And so a lot of things that I teach him goes back to whenever he was in high school. You know, people may or may not know I'm divorced. And so as he was in high school and I started thinking about I'm building this empire, right? What's going to happen if I get remarried? And people are human beings are interesting because their behaviors can be one thing, but then can flip real quickly, right? And so in my mind, not that I would think like I would marry somebody who would intentionally try to cut my son out. I had to protect him in the event that, something ever happened to me. I'm not even remarried, but this is just, remember I said foreshadow in your thinking, right?
Mhm.
And so I set up a trust back then so that, we wouldn't have to worry about that if something ever were to happen to me, at the very least, whatever the case may be. And so Xavier knows, like Xavier's older now, he's 23, and he knows and he understands. And so when we go out and buy stuff, he is like, are we going to put this in the name of the trust, or is this, are we putting it in our name and then transferring over? Like,
Mm.
and he understands the conversations because it's something we've been talking about regularly. He understands the business that we're building out here. And now that he's he's a realtor and he's kind of building his own business, even though he's under a brokerage, he knows that he's not going to make money if he doesn't get out there, and hump it and hustle. And so some of the things that we talk about, it's hard to pinpoint, but what I will say is we talk about everything, the good and the bad, um, and we do that because so that we can now have those conversations. If I go out and I buy something and I spend big money, and he's right there, and he's like, oh, I have some things that we had put in his name just because I didn't have my ID with me, and I'm talking about like $50,000 purchases. And
Mm.
so it's like you just put it in his name, and then later on we get transferred over to the trust because everything, even personal stuff, is owned under a trust. But that's a completely separate story. But so we talk about everything, and it's important so that if something ever were to happen to me, he will still be able to continue to walk the path that has been started for him.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And then one thing that I do have to say, and the one thing I want to thank you for is that Because we have a trust too, we have trust fund babies, right? Because of the conversations that we have had, and you're the sum total of the 5 people that you hang out with the most, and it's important that you are very intentional about those people. And I remember, because we used to have a 6-figure brand, we used to have a 6-figure in our CEO, and I remember you coming to the conference and you said that it should be a million. And so as soon 2 months after then, when we started planning for the next one, we started planning for the Millionaire Nurse CEO. And so we made over $1 million in revenue because of that, right? Because you elevated the brand, and because you said, okay, I'm not going to continue to stay stuck in the 6-figure state. And so I do have to thank you. And you want to really, really evaluate the 5 friends that you hang around with and evaluate their net worth. And you're going to be right in the middle. Okay. You're going to be right in the middle. So I'm very intentional about hanging out with people who are, high net worth individuals, not just in money, but in integrity, in their spirits. Like
Yeah.
they are, because money will come and go. Like you can lose it all today and you can make it all back. If you've gotten a million number one time, you can get it again.
You don't get it. Yeah. If
It's,
you've got
it's
one, you can get two.
Right, exactly, exactly. As a matter of fact, getting to the one is probably the hardest thing, right? And then after you get to the one, then getting to the, twos and threes and fours is not as hard. But the reality is that you really want to be intentional about who you hang out with. And so that's one of the reasons why we're doing this, is because we would have conversations and there would be amazing conversations. I was like, we ought to put that on, because people should know what we're talking about.
What are we talking about? We got some interesting things to say. I want to go back to the question you asked me about my son too, just because I just thought of something. When we first came out here to Washington, we're starting to kind of try to get to know people. So we go to different networking events and things of that nature. And so somebody had approached Xavier about something. I can't remember what exactly it was. It was like a product-based business, right? And so they're like, you should sell these products. You can make this much money, whatever, trying to lay it out for him. And he said, well, what else? Like, what is the other benefit that I get? And they're like, well, you get this coach, a business coach or whatever, because, it was last year. So Xavier was 22, they're trying to prey on him because he's young. And he was like, I don't need a business coach. I have my mom. And the guy's like, well, who's your mom? He's like, whatever, right? Like who's this lady that you have in your bed, whatever. This is my favorite thing, because then it's like, oh yeah, let me introduce you to my mom, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, well, what do you do? Okay, well, this is what I do. Okay. And then we exchange information, and then they go back and they Google you, or they look you up. And so when you're talking to them, especially if you're not in the capacity of, I am the center of attention for this event, right? You're not a speaker, you're not a presenter, or whatever the case may be, but you're a participant. You're just kind of in the crowd networking with people. They don't really know who you are. They're always going to underestimate you. But the fact of my son saying, I don't know what you guys got going on, but I don't need that. I'm good over here. Look, I don't listen to her half the time. She got to tell me more than once sometimes, but
Child.
That's a mother-son relationship versus, another situation. But I wanted to bring that up because my son and I speak about real life things all the time, right? We have our fun. Trust me, we have, mom, son fun, but we speak about that stuff regularly. We even have a meeting every Wednesday at whatever time our meeting is. I can't even remember, but it's on both of our calendars, and we sit down, we get our calendars out, and we talk about, like, we have an official meeting. And to some people, like, I've told people that before, and they think it's overkill. Like, oh, you did that with your son? You could just talk to him whenever.
Not overkill.
This is about structure. This is about teaching your child to be focused and to create structure and to be organized. And it gives us the time so that we can go into the computer. We can look at, does he need to look at the accounts? Do I need to tell him where things are? Things of that nature. He's got our estate planning attorney's phone number. These are important things that we discuss and we talk about. And so when you're asking me, like, what are some of the things that you talk about with your son? And I say, we talk about everything. we have a standing meeting every week so that we can make sure and understand this is important. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, it, it's not going to end with me, and it's not going to end with you. So keep
Mm.
on this path so that your children, whenever you decide to get married and have some, because he is very much not there yet, but your children will be able to continue on and understand and not just see like, oh, we have all this stuff, or we have, our family comes from money, or whatever the case may be, but they'll get to understand that as a continuum, we need to know what's going on so that this can continue happening for our family. So,
Because if you don't advance that money mindset,
mhm,
onto your children, then it's always going to be that space where they you I mean, you can listen, you
mhm,
can blow that money in a very short amount of time on the right things. So you have
exactly.
to be very, very clear about not blowing that money and being very intentional about helping them to understand how to spend it, how,
Yep.
the certain things to do, right? I'm always about assets. I'm about asset in the hot New
Oh
York
yeah,
thing.
me too. Me too.
And understanding what an asset
Go
is.
somewhere, I'm
Asset
about some
versus
assets, so that's it.
Yes. Asset versus liability, right? If it's making you money, it's an asset. If it doesn't, it's a liability. I mean, it's as simple as that. And because when Robert Kiyosaki broke that down, I was like, well, that makes it easy, right? And
Mhm.
so one of the things that you have to understand is that there are assets, there are liabilities, and it's okay. You're going to have some liabilities. You're going to have some risk tolerance, especially whenever you're in business. And the
Mhm.
biggest thing about business is mindset, 80%. It's just like whenever you go out and exercise and you're trying to lose weight, people be like, well, I exercised 5 hours today. Okay, well, did you eat that, 10 pounds of chicken? Because
Right.
it's 80% food, people. It's
Right.
80% food.
Mhm.
So, it's definitely there. But this has been an amazing conversation. So I want y'all to drop in the chat, what are some things that you want us to talk about as nurse entrepreneurs, as entrepreneurs in a general rule, right? Whether it be marketing, whether it be sales, whether it be operations, whether it be, money, building assets, whatever. Okay, whatever you would like us to talk to. And I think probably one of the things that we probably need to really, really hone in is the money mindset. And what are some strategic ways in which you can change your money mindset? Because my money mindset used to be so like I was a hoarder, like I wanted to save everything. And what we
Mm.
don't realize is that when you're saving everything, I want you to understand this, okay? When you're saving, you are 0.05 cent,
Right.
okay? That's how much you earning on that money, okay?
Right.
You need to understand how to invest that money.
Take that money and put it somewhere where you can earn double in a
Right,
couple of years, or
right,
triple.
right.
And
Right. Understanding that. And so we have to talk about that. Any closing thoughts, Jamie?
no, I hope that everybody understands, like, when we come from a place of who you hang out with matters, money mindset matters, understand that we're talking about this because it's so important. I've had people tell me, I told somebody once, because I can't remember how much money they pay for their car note, way too much. And I said, I don't believe in paying, getting myself into debt for something that can't make me money back.
Hmm.
And then I hired, like, in that same, conversation, I ended up hiring somebody to do something. And she was like, well, I don't believe in paying for people to do things that I know how to do myself. And I said, and that's where we're different,
Hmm. Hmm.
because I like to do what I want with my time. I don't like
Right.
to create extra projects. But anyway, we had that conversation. I had that conversation with that person, and a week later, she's messaging me about something else. So she's starting to come around, right? And so, like V said, spend time with the people who can help you think differently. And that's why we invite you to come and join us. We're going to do this at least once a week, live, right? We're going to try.
Hmm.
We're going to try to make sure that we do this at least once a week live. And so come hang out with us, because, whatever it is that we talk about, we're going to try to talk about specific things, but whatever it is that we talk about, I could guarantee you it'll start to change your mindset about making money and being in business.
I love it. Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I just said it, a little bit ago that America's ghetto because it keep doing this back and forth with this time changing. It's ridiculous. Okay, but whatever. Okay, y'all, people in Arizona, it was so funny because I had a client that's in Arizona, and so she was trying to jump on the coaching call, and she was, I think she was an hour late, and she was, and I was like, no, this
Yeah,
the
they don't
coaching.
do time change in Arizona.
Right, in Arizona. I said, Arizona's the real one. Okay. We over here trying to change all these times. Ridiculous. Anyway,
Ooh, that's
it is what
funny.
it is. But again, like, share, comment. Um, just come back in and ask us, tell us what you want to hear about, because we are here to let you know and understand that we have been where some of you have been. We still have higher to go. Even, we've not stopped growing, right? We've not stopped scaling. So there are some things that, we are still learning, right? And if you continue to learn, then you'll be good. Okay. And so we'll be in the business. So y'all have an amazing rest of your day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye bye.
Bye. See you next week.